topic for today is emotional affairs because I have had... Good morning, Roma. I've had a question come through last night, again, overnight. They seem to come through overnight, although I check the support email every morning, so I guess, it could have come through at any time. But the question that came through is around emotional affairs. Now, emotional affairs, it's something that many people don't really understand because they believe the definition of an affair is being physical or having sex with someone. And so when I see couples, they'll say to me, "Oh, but it wasn't an affair because we didn't have sex." But actually, an emotional affair can be more damaging than a physical affair, especially if that emotional affair is sort of out in the open and it's this deep friendship with somebody else that you feel is taking away from your main relationship with that person. So, did I express that properly? That is taking away from your relationship, that there's like a third person in the relationship. People can have close friendships. I have a close friendship with a male. He's gay, which of course takes the sexual aspect out of it. But it's really important that my partner doesn't feel that he's not the person that's front of mind. That's what an emotional affair is when your partner puts somebody else emotionally front of mind. And that's what this question's about. So the person has spoken to me about the fact that their partner has been having this emotional affair with a girl that he works with, that she and a friend happened to bump into the two of them. She's now worried it's more than emotional, that there could be a physical aspect because of what they saw, which is incredibly sad. My heart just goes out to her. It is just the most painful thing to lose your partner to somebody else because you feel so powerless. And of course she's asking me, she's begged him to come back. She said it seems to make things worse when she does that. So now she's not begging anymore and she's asking me, is there any hope of him coming back? Well, the reality is he has to want to come back of his own accord, and really there's nothing she can do to change or alter his decision other than looking after herself. Begging can make us seem desperate, and that can actually make things worse than if you accept someone's decision and get on with your life. What I would say, though, is the reason affairs happen, whether they are emotional or physical, they are an escape. So something must have been happening in the relationship before the affair happened that caused her partner not to be happy. Now, that's not saying that there's anything dreadful that she did. It's about the relationship as a whole. It could have been that it's a long-term relationship, and I will talk to you about boredom in relationships as the weeks go on. It could be that the relationship just went stale. It could be that there was an underlying problem. It could be that their communication fell down. Whatever it is, something happened to cause a problem within the relationship. And what has happened is her partner, rather than saying to her, "I'm not happy," he has somehow not felt that he could confront that. And that's about him, not about her. And so because he hasn't confronted the problem, he said, well, how can I manage myself? And unfortunately, sometimes people choose to manage themselves by having an affair. And they excuse the affair by saying, oh, but it wasn't physical. And they have a very close friendship with someone else. So the problem with that, of course, is that it becomes really addictive, because when you have an affair with someone, it's not real. Hi, Jessica. How are you, darling? When you have an affair with someone, it's not real. So what happens is you're in the reality with the primary relationship that has the issues that's caused this desire to escape. And then you step out into this bubble that's the affair, whatever that looks like. And of course, it's perfect. He or she is on their best behaviour. You sit, you laugh at each other's jokes. You have a restricted time together, so it's very easy to be on your best behaviour. And of course, you may well have wonderful sex because, of course, you're not supposed to be doing it. Or you have intense conversations and you feel like you're both connecting because you're both talking about your problems and all that stuff. And of course, the primary relationship is forgotten about. Then you lift yourself out of that bubble, you come back to the primary relationship, and it actually creates a capacity to cope. And so some men, this is how some men have serial affairs. They don't just do it once, they do it many times. And they resolve not to do it, but somehow it becomes this way of coping that enables them to cope with the primary relationship. The problems arise, of course, when someone chooses this way of coping, and then they find that they are starting to become attached to the person that they're having the affair with, and then there's suddenly a choice. Often men who have affairs in a serial way will choose women where there's no choice. There's no choice. They would never go and be with this woman on an ongoing capacity. It's simply a coping mechanism, a very cruel, a very nasty, and a very toxic coping mechanism, but a coping mechanism nonetheless. And when you understand it like that, you start to be able to understand how the guy's thinking and why he would be doing this behaviour over and over again. It doesn't make it any easier to cope with, it doesn't excuse it, but it explains it. So getting back to the question was, what should I do? Well, certainly begging him to come back is not helpful, because you appear to be desperate, and if he's and really needy and emotional, and yes, it's important that he knows you love him and you want him to come back, but unfortunately he's comparing you to someone that he's having an unrealistic relationship with because he's stepping in and out of it. And of course, it's very easy to have a perfect relationship when you're not together 24/7, and that's what you're competing with. You're competing with him knowing you, warts and all, and not knowing this other girl. So that's not helpful. My sense of it is that as difficult as it is, what you're doing, letting him go, is the best thing you can do, because he's got to process this all the way through. He's got to go and see this girl, he's got to see all of her stuff and realise that she's not the angel Gabriel that came down from heaven and is helping him cope with all the shit in his life. So there's that process. Part of this is also you thinking about that whole horrible thing that we're hardwired with that drives us all mad. Oh no, I won't say it's horrible. It's just a really difficult thing that we're all hardwired with, and that's this desire to be in a relationship, and probably this great fear of being alone that comes along with it, that often comes from our childhood. And again, I'll speak to you about that as you know, as we go through the weeks and I talk about all the different topics in my book. But with this is this great desire to be with our partner, and if you've coupled up with him, you know, it's a bit like swans, especially if you've had children. To have him go is just, it feels like the end of the world is happening. And of course your life will be very different if he does go, in many ways, both emotionally and logistically, you know, financially, all of those things. I'm not trying to take away from that, but what I am saying is this is an opportunity for you to find you. So it may well be more helpful for you on so many levels to actually use this as an opportunity to focus on you. So actually being able to say to him, you know what, I'm really hurt. I'm absolutely devastated that you have made this decision to go and be with this work colleague. I'm devastated. However, I respect your decision. I can't make you come back to me. I want you to come back to me, but I can't make you come back. You know, I sound really lucid when I say these things for other people. If I was in your situation, I want you to know I would not be speaking this calmly. So I'm just giving you a model for you to kind of work through and talk in your own way to your partner. And certainly understand that if this was happening to me, I would be crying floods of tears. So I don't want you to think that I'm expecting you to be this calm. But basically that sort of thing to him. So I respect your decision. I'm disappointed. I'm devastated. I would love you to come back to me, but I respect it. If you want to go and be with her, it's your life, and I want you to be happy. Then what you need to do is work on finding you and think about the relationship and what happened so that you can be, number one, in a really good space to make a decision that if he decides to come back, whether you actually want him back or not. This is someone who's made the decision to have an emotional affair and not be straight with you. This is a person who's made the decision not to come to you and try and work out your issues first, but to go and kind of manage his emotion with someone else. And that's not okay. Whether there was sex or not, it's not okay. So you may find in the cold light of day, when you've worked on you, and look, I'm going to be conceited enough to say part of working on you is coming in and watching my videos and maybe buying some of my books. And you know, as time goes on, I'm hoping to have some other specialists come in and do some talks as well so that you can hear their point of view as well. So, you know, working on yourself, so important. You will get clarity, you will make decisions, you will experience life in a different way, and if he sees you finding yourself, it makes you more attractive to him. Not that I would recommend that you you start working on yourself for that reason, but there's something about someone being self-assured and knowing themselves and being confident and comfortable in their own skin that makes them very attractive. And you may present yourself very differently towards him than what you have done before. And I'm not clear if there's children involved, but if there's children involved, you need to be holding on to yourself in order to be strong for them. And you need to be able to cultivate a good relationship with him because they're going to be going and spending time with him. So my strongest advice to you is work on yourself, find yourself, and give him your blessing to go. Because he may well be quite shocked with you saying that, and that may well cause him to stop and think. If he thinks you're desperate for him to come back, he knows he's got you there as a fallback. If you say to him, if you've decided to go, you have my blessing, then you start to disengage, and that will make him think, my goodness, she's going to let me go. Oh shit, do I really want to go? Do you see the difference? And sometimes just stopping and thinking about a pattern that's going on between you, where he's kind of disconnecting and you're trying to pull him back in, there'll be a pattern there. And, you know, if I kind of sat with you in therapy, I could probably find the pattern. You probably know what the pattern is that happens between you. It often is very clear. If you do something different, it disrupts it. And when you disrupt it, sometimes you can change the outcome, not just for him, but for yourself with what you want. And of course, it enables the relationship to grow. When we grow, we ask something different of each other, and it enables the relationship to grow, if it's a healthy relationship. Now, it's really important that you find yourself for another reason. And that is, you need to call your boundaries. If you take this man back, your partner, yes, there's all that. Maybe he's going through his midlife crisis. Yes, maybe there's stuff going on in the relationship. But you know what? You own your stuff. He's got to own his. And whatever you do does not make him go and have an emotional affair. It does not make him be abusive to you. It does not make him do anything. He chooses to do that himself, just as you choose your own behavior. You own your stuff. You get really clear on your stuff. But he's got to get clear on his. So you need to call your boundaries, and you need to be really clear that if he comes back to you with his tail between his legs saying, I really do admit it and I really want to come back, you need to say, well, you know what, if you're coming back, then we need to maybe go and have some therapy, or at least you need to insist that maybe he even has some personal work and that he's honest with that counsellor and that he works through his own stuff. And most certainly, you need to say to him, this can never happen again. And if it happens again, we don't have a relationship, and you need to stick with it, because if you threaten to go, you must follow through. Incredibly important, because if you don't, the threat will be diluted. And that's when I see couples where the guy sits there saying, I didn't know she was going. And she says, I told you and I told you. The problem is he doesn't hear it because it's a threat that you don't make good on. So then it becomes a bit like, crying wolf, and they just don't hear it. So it's important for you that if you're going to say that you follow through on it. It's also really important that you have a new relationship moving forward if he comes back. And that's about you finding yourself and knowing what it is that you want from him. Because things haven't worked. Clearly there's been something there. Emotional affairs don't come out of the blue. Unless, of course, you've married someone that's, a psychopath or whatever, and really does have a personality disorder and isn't capable of giving you intimacy, and basically that's what he would have done anyway. But 99 times out of 100, if there is an affair going on, in my mind, when I see couples, that's about there having been something going on in the relationship first. Then, but what happens is the bloke doesn't engage. He goes off, he has the emotional affair or whatever, and he uses it as a coping mechanism. So I hope that's helpful to you. It's really, it's incredibly difficult when you lose a partner like that, because unfortunately you're competing with somebody that isn't showing their true self. And no matter how much you would even sit down with your partner and say, this is what's happened, this is the ins and outs of what's happened between us, this girl, she's, you don't really know her, she's presenting as her best self, blah blah blah, you explain the whole thing, he's not going to listen. He's got to see this for himself. The risk he takes is if he actually decides to kind of process this through. And I'm thinking back to the question, and there was something about for the last 9 months or something, she was saying that this guy has her partner, sorry, my brain's not working, her partner has and it helps to keep it anonymous, that her partner had been taking about 9 months to make up his mind about whether, he was in this emotional affair or not. You need to kind of sit with that and say, well, how long am I going to give him to make up his mind? That's the other thing too. How long am I going to let this happen? Or am I going to look at him and say, you've had 9 months to do this and work your head out. You need to work your head out, because I can't do this anymore. And put the ball in his court. He either wants to be with you or not. And I know that is incredibly difficult, because you don't want him to go. And I'm essentially saying to you, look, give him permission to go. Say, I respect your decision. You don't actually say to him, go to her, but if you want to go, I respect your decision. You're free to leave. That actually you're kind of giving him the pathway back, because you're saying to him, I can be without you. I'm not dependent on you. I can be without you. I can stand on my own 2 feet, and I can grow from this, and I can be strong. And that makes you more attractive than anything. But definitely there's something around you naming your boundaries around that, because there's something very much where he's holding all the power in the relationship and you don't have any. If you let him do this to you, you don't have any power. He's got all the power. He's got you sitting there going, please come back to me, I'm devastated. And her going, come to me, honey, I can be fabulous. And of course she can be fabulous. It's so easy. At work we're on our best behaviour. And if he's only seeing her here and there, no. So, and of course the beginning of a relationship, everybody seems perfect, and limerence can last many years, and I talk about limerence in my book, and there is a post on my blog I will link you back to called Is It Love or Limerence, that might be helpful for you to read. I haven't written any posts on affairs yet. I'm planning to, haven't as yet, but there is one on love and limerence and understanding the difference between the two. And unfortunately he's in love with you, or maybe he says I'm in love with you but I'm not in love with you, and that's when a disconnection's happened in the relationship, and that's where he's kind of stepped out to look for that passion, because it takes great effort to keep a relationship that's an ongoing relationship going with passion. It takes great effort and a lot of work to keep that spice, because you know each other and you know everything there is to know about each other. I hope that's helped the person that's asked this question. I hope you guys that are listening to me have got something from that. I am going to go off and do some more work. I've got a busy day ahead and lots happening, and I hope you're going to have a lovely day as well. It looks like we've finally got some blue sky, and I am just so tired of the rain here in Melbourne. It's becoming really boring, and you know, when the sun comes out it's humid and all that. So once again, I'm waffling. Everyone that listens to my videos tells me I waffle. I can't help it. I have this thing about closing, and that's my stuff. So I'm going to say goodbye. Everybody, have a lovely day, and I'll talk soon. Bye-bye. Bye.